All right, everyone, we've got a story here from Ohio where their house, it may or may not make it through the Senate there. And of course, Kasich is their governor, and he's kind of a liberal Republican. So I have a feeling he'll probably veto this. They have passed a law through their house that would ban abortion after a heartbeat is detected. The problem being, of course, in some cases, that's within the first trimester. Now, I'm going to say this. The fact that angiogenesis has occurred and vascular cells have begun to differentiate from primordial infant stem cells, in my opinion, does not necessitate personhood. I don't believe that. I think it's more about neural function. Is this a being insofar as it is capable of internalizing within a mental framework, potentially therefore feeling pain, emotion in some sense? Is it capable of understanding to some dim degree that it exists? In the case of a first trimester fetus, the answer is definitely no. There is no mental function. Second trimester, we're talking 5 or 6 months, you can make that debate, and that's really where the debate has largely taken place. This goes well beyond, though, the debate, and keep in mind, Ohio. Ohio's an interesting state. It's not a heavily red state. It's not Wyoming. And it's not the most evangelical state. It's not like, fucking Alabama or something. It's very strange because, I mean, they were I believe, the first state to have like castle doctrine and to extend it through their courts to police and stuff. Like an off-duty cop is drunk, kicks down your door, and you shoot them. Anywhere else it was illegal because there's still a cop. You killed a cop. In Ohio, they expanded their castle doctrine to say, no, if it's wrongful, there's no warrant issued, you're in fear of your life, yeah, you can react offensively in that case. So on guns and self-defense, they go far right, and on this, it's like, this is beyond what like Mississippi or Texas has been doing. In Texas, it's like, okay, we're going to cap it off at 5 months or something, or you have to see an ultrasound before you can, consent to have it or something, which, probably doesn't happen half the time. But it's sort of like, half-assing it. In Ohio, they're like, no, we're basically going to ban abortion. You do realize, in the case of a woman not planning the pregnancy, she probably doesn't realize she's become impregnated until she misses a period. Let's say that she works hard and she's like, well, I'm going to have to go in like next Monday and schedule a visit. Whoops, yeah, we've detected a heartbeat because it's 5 weeks in. You can't have an abortion. Now, of course, does this actually provide a significant stumbling block? No, well, it's unconstitutional in my mind. It's a violation of the right to privacy. That being said, Ohio is also not the largest state. So even if you're right in the center of Ohio, if you drive 3 hours, you can be in a different state, like Illinois, where they don't care if... Actually, I don't know. They're not physically hooked to Illinois. I'm thinking of Indiana. Sorry, my geography skills may be deteriorating a little. But you can be in a number of other states and get an abortion. Pennsylvania, I don't think that they give a fuck so much. The problem being, of course, a person shouldn't have to drive 3 hours out of their way to obtain an abortion. I don't believe that. By the way, a lot of abortions and some people that are more evangelical. I realize that a lot of my audience opposes abortion, is not pro-choice, or at the very least is like, well, I kind of am, but, partial birth abortions, or it should only be in the case of rape or incest or mother's life. There are a lot of like wiggle room, gray area arguments made. And I've already told him, if you're going to stand against the fundamental topic of abortion, if you believe that it's murder, then you shouldn't even believe in abortion at 1 week. You should believe that upon the moment of consent, don't half-ass me on it. If you're going to make an ethical, a moral, especially religious argument about it, then there is no wiggle room unless you're a biblical literalist talking about the quickening, which is, again, 4 or 5 months in. So it shouldn't be a problem for someone who wants to get an abortion at 6 weeks just because angiogenesis has occurred. I think that that's ridiculous. This isn't even on a religious basis that they're doing it. They're just trying to eliminate abortion. And that's fundamentally what it is, but I believe strongly that women should have the right to choose. Because when I look back at the history of it, again, outside of any moral context, if we look at when abortion was illegal in some parts of the United States, what it meant is that rich people went to Canada or to a place where it was legal, people in the middle class went to Mexico, and then people that were poor went out into an alley and punctured their cervix in order to fool the doctor into thinking there was a miscarriage. to give them a reason to give them abortion, because it was still legal in the case that the mother's life was in danger. Well, if you're going to have a problem, hey doc, I'm bleeding severely from my cervix, yeah, they would perform an abortion. You see, the problem is a lot of them ended up with sepsis and died. A lot of them ended up sterile. And some of these people were rape victims, were very young. You know, they're like 15 years old and you get pregnant or something. Whoops, I guess you can't abort. I use the example of, have fun telling the 12-year-old rape survivor that she has to have the rape baby. No, I don't think that that's ethical. I think that that's unethical. And here's the big thing. Beyond the historical argument, which I think is actually the strongest one in favor of being pro-choice, even though nobody ever makes that argument, you just point out, hey, you know, lots of women died back in the day before it was legal, before Roe v. Wade, and they got abortions anyway. If they had any money, they went to Canada to get them. So, I mean, it's like the NIMBY bullshit. It's out of sight, out of mind. Beyond that, though, I would say the constitutional argument. The government shouldn't be making that determination. No, it doesn't make me feel happy to think about the government making medical decisions and instituting its form of moralism on the public. If you don't like abortion, the answer is don't get a fucking abortion. But to ask, I mean, some people make these weird, totally non-pragmatic arguments. Oh, well, if people just keep it in their pants, this wouldn't be a problem. Yes, because the teen population and people in college are so good at doing that. Again, you have this sort of weird golden age mythical reverence for like the 40s and 50s as though there weren't constant unplanned pregnancies back then. Women got knocked up by the milkman or by their high school sweetheart all of the fucking time. In many cases, it led to all sorts of social problems. Ostracism and it was tied in certainly with crime. You know, someone's been disowned by their family. They were discouraged from even attending school, basically be a housewife. Now they're out on the street. You know, they're turning tricks because there's nothing else they can do to make money. They get addicted to drugs, end up dead in an alley or something. I don't think that that's an ethical culture. No, and I know that the majority of my audience actually disagrees with me on this. So be it. Okay, I believe that I'm correct. I think it's not pragmatic. I think it's disgraceful that the state of Ohio would essentially be trying to ban abortion by tying it into a biological process that has nothing to do with pain receptors. It has nothing to do with cognition. The brain, believe it or not, to the people of Ohio, the heart isn't actually where mental functions are conducted. I know they thought that like 700 years ago. They were in fact wrong. They also thought sperm came from the kidneys. I bet there were a lot of unplanned pregnancies back then too. Only back then, of course, if you went to the midwife, you could definitely get an herbal tea that would induce abortion. By the way, many abortions, they don't even require surgery. If it's before, like, 5 weeks or something, they give you a fucking pill for your abortion. They give you one pill that loosens up your cervix and another one that stimulates period flow. It stimulates the abortion of the embryo. That's what they do. No muss, no fuss. No, they don't stick a rod in your vagina and dissect the baby and all these horrible things that you hear about. You're talking about late-term abortions that are extremely uncommon. They are not common at all, and most people do not use abortion as a form of birth control. Because by and large, even though despite evangelicals trying to prevent this from being the case, by and large, contraception's readily available. Yeah, it's possible for women to get the pill, or the patch, or the implant of various types, or any of a dozen other fucking methods at this point. No, smearing honey in the vagina and pulling out, probably not the most effective method. Yeah, it could work, but, you could also use a condom, you could also use the pill. There's also this wonderful thing for those of you, bareback fans. It's called spermicide. Hey, it's almost as effective as a condom anyway. Those can unfortunately break. And what if the condom does break and you're like, whoops, well, you can get an abortion. It's a wonderful thing. So you don't have to be in a situation where you're like, well, I'm not psychologically or fiscally ready to have a kid, like literally destroy my up-and-coming career. So like, okay, well, then you've got another option. And no, you don't have to go through with a pregnancy and get all fucked up hormonally and physically potentially, and then give it up for adoption, which, that's an unfortunate situation. Let's just say that. Being an orphan wouldn't be any fun. I assume it'd be like, well, why mommy and daddy not want to have me or something? That'd be kind of a sad thing to have to go through. No offense to anyone who's in that situation. But yeah, I think women should have the choice to abort. I'm 100% pro-choice, and I think that the state of Ohio will get sued over this and lose anyway. Every time that these sort of things get passed, they get knocked down by the courts. They'll issue an injunction, they'll find against the state of Ohio and say, no, this is a de facto abortion ban, you can't impose it. Fucking stop trying to tinker and look for workarounds in Roe v. Wade. Yeah, people are worried about Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh is going to destroy Roe v. Wade, which he can't even do on his own. The Supreme Court's not going to do that. And then something like this happens. It's not even like major news. So yeah, I oppose this completely. I don't think it's pragmatic at all. It won't work. People will go out of state to get an abortion. Someone will sue anyway and they'll lose. That's about all. Peace out.